Remember when Donald Trump used to say that the media is the enemy of the people? That's what he used to say. The media is the enemy of the people. That coming from somebody who adores Vladimir Putin in Russia, who calls him a smart man, a genius. Yeah. At the same time, Russia just passed a law that says if you report the news and says there's a war in Ukraine while you're on Russian soil and you show any kind of evidence, like for example this picture here, these crumbled buildings, then you could be sent to prison for 15 years. Yeah. So the people in Russia are only allowed to see state media, like state television, what the government shows them. And the reason I start out saying this, because this article here is going to show what propaganda can do and the effect that it can have, even with people you know, your own relatives or friends. So this says here, Ukrainians find that relatives in Russia don't believe it's a war. See that? Look at this building here. Lviv, Ukraine. 4 days after Russia began dropping artillery shells on Kiev, Misha Katsirin, a Ukrainian restaurateur, was wondering why his father, a church custodian living in the Russian city of Nizhny Novgorod, hadn't called to check on him. There's a war. I'm his son, and he just doesn't call. Mr. Katsirin, who was 33, said in an interview. So I called him by myself and told him, how is it going there? Yeah, in Kiev, with my family, now that Russia started bombing us, that I'm trying to evacuate my children and my wife, that everything is extremely scary. He did not get the response he expected. His father, Andrei, didn't believe him. No, stop, Mr. Katsurin said of his father's initial response. He started to tell me how the things in my country are going, said Mr. Katsurin, who converted his restaurants into volunteer centers and is temporarily staying near the western Ukrainian city of Ternopil. He started to yell at me and told me, look, everything is going like this. They are Nazis. An estimated 11 million people in Russia have Ukrainian relatives. Many people living in Ukraine and holding Ukrainian passports are considered ethnic Russians, and a large percentage of Ukrainians living in the southern and eastern part of the country speak Russian as their native language. As Ukrainians deal with the devastation of the Russian attacks in their homeland, many are also encountering a confounding and almost surreal backlash from family members in Russia who refuse to believe that Russian soldiers could bomb innocent people, or even that a war is taking place at all. These relatives have essentially bought into the official Kremlin position that President Vladimir V Putin's army is conducting a limited special military operation with the honorable mission of de-Nazifying Ukraine. Mr. Putin has referred to the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a native Russian speaker with a Jewish background, as a drug-addled Nazi in his attempts to justify the invasion. Those narratives are emerging amid a wave of disinformation emanating from the Russian state as the Kremlin moves to clamp down on independent news reporting while shaping the messages most Russians are receiving. Russian television channels do not show the bombardment of Kiev, Ukraine's capital, and its suburbs, or the devastating attacks on Kharkiv, Mariupol, Chernihiv, and other Ukrainian cities. They also do not show the peaceful resistance evident in places like Kherson, a major city in the south that Russian troops captured several days ago, and certainly not the protests against the war that have cropped up across Russia. Instead, they focus on the Russian military successes without discussing the casualties among Russian soldiers. Many state television correspondents are embedded in eastern Ukraine and not in the cities being pummeled by missiles and mortars. Recent news reports made no mention of the 40-mile-long Russian convoy on a roadway north of Kiev. On Friday, Russia also banned Facebook and Twitter to try to stem uncontrollable information. All this, Mr. Kashurin said, explains why his father told him there are Russian soldiers there helping people. They give them warm clothes and food. Mr. Kashurin is not alone in his frustration. When Valentina V. Kremlin wrote to her brother and sister in Russia to tell them that her son had spent days in the bomb shelter in the Kiev suburb of Bucha because of the intensive fighting there, she was also met with disbelief. They believe that everything is calm in Kiev, that no one is shelling Kiev. Ms. Kremlin said in a phone interview. She said her siblings think the Russians are striking military infrastructure with precision, and that's it. She said her brother, Lyuval, who lives in Perm, wished her a happy birthday on February 25th, the second day of the invasion. When Ms. Kremlin wrote back about the situation on the ground, her sister's answer via direct message was simple. No one is bombing Kiev, and you should actually be afraid of the Nazis whom your father fought against. Your children will be alive and healthy. We love the Ukrainian people, but you need to think hard about who you elected as president. Ms. Kremlin said she sent photos from trusted media sites of mangled tanks and a destroyed building in Bucha to her brother in Krasnoyarsk, but was met with a jarring response. He said that this site is fake news, right? She said, and that essentially the Ukrainian army was doing the damage being blamed on Russian. See? It is impossible to convince them of what they have done, Ms. Kremlin said, referring to Russian forces. Anastasia Belomsteva and her husband, Vladimir, have been encountering the same problem. They are residents of Kharkiv in Ukraine's north, near the Russian border, which has been hit hard by Russian bombs. But they said in an interview that it was easier to explain the invasion to their 7-year-old daughter than to some of their relatives. They totally don't understand what is happening here. They don't understand that they just attacked us for no reason. Ms. Balom-Steva said her grandmother and Mr. Balom-Steva's father are in Russia. Asked whether they believe that an attack is happening, Ms. Steve responded no. You see, so these people are totally oblivious to what is going on, and they call it fake news. Just like Donald Trump, anything about him was fake news that he didn't like. And this is what Putin is about in Russia. No wonder. No wonder Donald Trump has this affinity to what Putin, a dictator, because Trump himself would have liked to be a dictator, but was stopped by the United States Constitution.